Under your guys' vote, we are going to continue this sort of showcase series technically in as the main eight instead of just sort of jumping between stuff. Now, obviously, since we're going in order, we can show off my probably one of the most customized things I've ever done, specifically in this 2025 range. My Edward, which has absolutely just blown the hell up on like anything I show, which surprisingly apparently it's because not I now I'm not just going to say this off the bat before we talk about this. I know that I am not the only person who has made a 2025 Trackmaster Edward, nor do I claim to be the only one or the first one or anything. But I think people did say that I was the first actual one to showcase it. So not that I would take away any of the spotlight from people who have made a 2025 Edward. I love seeing other people's work, but I just wanted to get that out of the way. And obviously, if you can see structurally, this was made out of a 2025 James, and I will use my main James as a demonstration for what I have done, which is quite a lot. So let's move the tender aside and get into the front of it first. Now, the biggest noticeable thing you guys can see is Edward's face has been swapped out with a Golden Bear Edward. Now, I've got a bunch of questions about how I had his face. It's technically not the original one. I had to fix it up because I customized the Golden Bear a few years ago, so I had to you can definitely still see it along the forehead. But being honest, the last time you saw this Edward, it's kind of structurally kind of gone to shit, but I will be fixing it as soon as I finish the other characters that I have promised. But yes, Golden Bear face. There's James's, for example. His smoke box has I have taken off the elongated frames off of James, filled them in with some clay and sanded it down, and added a more blocky extension to his smoke box, which, by the way, is removable. So yeah, you can more so see what went into shaping it. We'll get to the inside a little later, but also with the front was I actually had practice to do this with James, was getting a push along chassis and cutting it so it could then slip and fit in onto a Trackmaster engine. Now James was technically the first one I did this to, but he ended up turning out to be very good practice for not only this, but others I've since made. So he's basically the same as James, where it's basically a Trackmaster push-along chassis, just cut to a different length to support the different amount of wheels he has. But as I said, it's kind of gone a little bit structurally gone because there's pieces of wood and cardboard that I've glued down with adhesive glue that have now actually loosened up. So now every time I place him down, he sort of looks like Snot Rod from Cars, where he just like leans down like a hot rod. But the other thing was on the bottom here. I'll just try and see if I can showcase his chassis, where it is a normal Trackmaster 2025 chassis, but I've swapped out the main wheel for a Trackmaster 2 Thomas, and the biggest thing is cutting the bottom of the front and filling that in with some card. And since there is no wheel there anymore, I've taken one that I had on hand in Origins Go Percy wheel, and I've cut the actual axles on both of these straight down, and then it sort of ends right about here and here before it reaches the motor. Does work, except the main thing is this Edward may look good to you guys, but structurally, the reason I haven't actually ran this is because not really that good, and I've still got to actually figure out how to structurally hold the chassis up off of the ground for, if the chassis can get back on. Come on, Edward. People are waiting. There we go. But, I need to, actually, hang on. This is what I was talking about before. You can see up here, if I didn't bump the camera, watch where I'm going. If it focuses on there, I've placed pieces of cardboard up there with a smidge cut out for it to then somewhat evenly have, actually, I realized like I said, it's structurally shit, but, so the chassis can evenly still sit inside the body as of normal, but there is no actual way of holding it in since I cut the front off and there's no real screw point to hold in. The only thing that holds it in is the tab, which, since the chassis was for something else, I cut the tab extension, so it doesn't even hold in at all. It just sort of sits on the shell, or just wraps around it, really. And yeah, that's the reason why you guys haven't seen this guy running, and it probably won't be for a while until I figure out the kinks of it. But I'm glad that you guys do like how he looks. Now we can get to the actual part, is major reshaping. Start from the still go back to the front. Was I cut what I did in. It's definitely not the most efficient way to do things, and you guys probably shouldn't try this. But I don't actually have sort of the drill piece that is like a spinning disc, and you can also cut very specific areas out. I don't have that piece, so what I dangerously did was drill. Pardon my French. Drill small holes into the wheel arch, and then over time with pliers rip it apart until it had a big gap, and I filled it in. You can kind of see a little bit of the arch here, maybe in the light, if you can kind of tell. It's a little bit there, but I filled that in, and also another thing I did was cut the dome and fill that in and move it slightly more, I believe, back. Yes, I slightly moved it back. And the obvious, very big thing I did is his cab and his firebox, the thing that everyone seemingly goes batshit crazy for. The boiler, basically, actually, I'll demonstrate on James. What I have done was essentially, not this, envision this as a bit of a saw. Cut around the top there, the complete top off there of the firebox, and then using that very same, honestly kind of stupid and dangerous idea of drilling into here until I could get with the pliers and then slowly rip away the plastic. I was left with a ginormous gap between boiler and cab, and I decided to mostly fill in structurally with poster tube, which I may be able to find. Yes, this poster tube right about here, you can see I cut a bit of an area here. I marked out where I was supposed to cut it, and then cut that up into a section here and a section here. That formed the main structural area before covering it over with cardboard pieces here along there, and also thin bits of paper, so that way it's a little bit more flush with the boiler, although some areas are better than others, if you can kind of already tell. And the same thing has been done to his cab, where I basically have taken James's and, of course, taken out the arch and filled it in with the two windows, which I can actually demonstrate with my blade right about here. So what I have done was essentially cut straight a rectangle like this out, and then once I did that and got all the gunk sort of out, all the stray plastic, I filled them in with wooden pieces, or just wooden sticks in general, really. Although you can definitely see the cut isn't perfect on both sides. This one looks a little bit more decent than the other side. The other one I cut a little bit too deep in, so it kind of looks like someone's just bashed his window and it bent it this way. Also, for me to remove the cab, it's glued in there permanently. But for me to remove the cab, since it's one piece with the back of James's, it meant that I had to take this part out and I couldn't salvage it. So more so just adds to the fact that Edward is not very structurally put together. He does look nice, according to you guys. And the other thing I did was something I'm trying out with a bunch of my models is making lamps out of the end of these coffee stirrer sticks that my wonderful mum constantly brings home from work. I love her. And what I do is I cut them to about that length there, essentially cut off the end, but still a bit of a flat area. And then I get the other end and essentially glue those two together. You can see where I've glued them. And once that's done, I glue them down to the running board, and I have a pretty convincing, somewhat looking lamp design. Now, you can probably tell from the back here, I haven't added lamps to like people like Stanley, Ryan. I don't believe Salty has a lamp. I know he has a new one that's more square up on the top, and I think he does have a I do believe he does have a white lamp on his left in the classic series, but I just think I don't know if it'll look cluttered. You guys can tell me if Salty you'd want. Tell me right now in the comments, lamp here or the square lamp up here that makes him look like a builder's hat, according to Thomas Theorist. And that even if I showed you all this stuff, it's not really that much to really talk about. I've kind of documented exactly how I was doing Edward in the community posts as I done him. Actually another difference is I kind of did the front chassis a little bit wrong, so it kind of looks like Pinchy from Diesel 10. It kind of sticks out a little bit there like a mouth. I've actually made into a way where I can technically take out this front coupler if I wanted to, but I just sport him with this because of the recent videos I've made. But also the way I've held them in there is the same as James and Edwards are the same. Fill in that area with layers of card. Although the difference is James is held together with Gorilla Glue and Edwards is held together with adhesive glue. That probably answers my own question on why one is more structurally different than the other. Ooh, pardon me. More structurally sound than the other one. Also probably would have to do that. I didn't really do all that much to James physically. It's mostly just his front wheel, bit of a hair on there, and the front coupler. I mean, I suppose I did the face, but yeah. Something I would also probably want to question is characters that I actually haven't done all that much to, like James and Percy and that. Would you guys want to have them just compiled into maybe like a 2-character video or maybe even like a 3-character video? You guys can comment if you wanted that. But also, before we end this, Edward's tender is literally the exact same as every other tender engine besides my Henry, except I swapped them out with the older design for the tenders instead of the reused truck chassis, which, don't get me wrong, this looks stupendously better than this for trucks, vans, wagons, whatever they release a wagon with that chassis. I just feel like this reflects more of a tender axle box design, and also the only blue wheels I had on hand were for my All Engines Go Gordon, which I don't really find myself using my All Engines Go ones anymore, seeing as how I kind of lost interest from the like series in general after maybe like Toby was introduced, and also since the show is literally dead and there are supposedly very good things upon the horizon. Um, don't ask where I left his coal. I believe I lost it on the shelf. Oh, and also cut the buffers off the front, but kept them on the back. So that is my Edward custom. I hope you guys had a good time seeing how a bit of a closer look as to how I made my Edward. Hopefully this can help other people making their Edwards or other customs. I've been Soil Down Under. You guys have been wonderful. I'll see you around in the next week's video.